Everybody talks about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snubs, but what about rock stars that snubbed the Hall of Fame? Today we're looking at rock and roll legends that said no thanks to the Rock Hall. Coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so that you don't miss future reviews and more. It seems like every year, right after the new class of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees is announced, the speculation begins about who will and who won't show up to accept the honor. Even before Radiohead's induction was announced for the class of 2019, lead singer Thom Yorke made it known that he had no intention of attending the ceremony. Last year, Dire Straits frontman Mark Knopfler was a no-show, and in fact, didn't even RSVP yes or no. He just didn't reply at all. Knopfler's ambivalence about the whole thing even led to Keith Urban backing out of his role to induct the band, basically saying that if Knopfler wasn't going to show up, why should he? You know, as much as fans like to debate about the Hall of Fame and the many acts that have been snubbed by not being nominated or inducted, the Rock Hall actually has a long history of artists snubbing them. Artists that were inducted but for one reason or another didn't show up. In fact, the list of acts that bailed on their own induction includes so many rock legends that you might be surprised. So today I'm going to count down my top 10 artists that said no thanks to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Of course, as they always say, the show must go on. So every one of these artists was still inducted in spite of their absence. Kicking off the list at number 10, it's Rod Stewart. In 1994, Stewart was inducted into the Rock Hall for his wildly successful solo career. Unfortunately, it was an act of God that kept him from attending the actual ceremony. When earthquakes struck in California, Stewart decided he preferred to stay home with his family rather than make the trek across the continent to accept the award. Moving on to number 9, it's Rod Stewart. This rock legend is one of the elite members of the Hall of Fame to have been inducted twice, once as a solo artist and in 2012 as a member of the band Faces. But when the time came for the induction ceremony, Stewart once again had to bow out, this time due to illness. Ultimately, I guess you can file Stewart's snub of the Rock Hall under bad luck. The rocker did seem to be sincerely regretful about not being able to attend in both instances. At number 8 on the list is another artist that didn't attend the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, allegedly for personal reasons. When Joni Mitchell was inducted into the Rock Hall in 1997, she had just been reunited with a daughter that she'd given up for adoption in the late 60s. Mitchell claimed that attending the induction ceremony would inevitably lead to an uncomfortable media frenzy related to that turn of events. Now, to be honest, I'm not so sure that in 1997 there really would have been that much of a frenzy around Joni Mitchell. Rumor has it, though, that she was also annoyed that the Rock Hall may have only selected her because they'd been criticized for having so few female honorees. Whatever the reason, Mitchell stayed home, as did Neil Young that same year. But Young has been a fickle friend to the Rock Hall. He skipped the Buffalo Springfield induction in 1997, citing his distaste for the commercialism of the event. Yet he showed up 2 years earlier for his solo induction, and he's attended multiple times to induct other honorees. All things considered, it doesn't seem appropriate to include Neil Young in my top 10, so consider him an honorable mention. But suffice it to say, 1997 was a disappointing year to all those who were in attendance. Now, at number 7 on my list is an artist who became a counterculture icon. When the Grateful Dead were inducted into the Rock Hall in 1994, all but one member of the band showed up to accept the honor. The lone holdout was none other than Jerry Garcia. Although the group's frontman never offered any official explanation for his absence, insiders say Garcia thought that the Rock Hall was ridiculous and that he found the concept of ranking acts in such a way was an affront to their artistry. Coming in at number 6 on my top 10 is Axl Rose, the always controversial frontman and namesake for the 80s hard rockers Guns N' Roses. When the band was inducted into the Rock Hall in 2012, Rose sent organizers a strongly worded letter objecting to the entire process and insisting it was of no significance to him whatsoever. Most of the rest of his band did still attend the ceremony, and later Rose dialed back the rhetoric with an apology to his fans. At number 5 on the list is a rock and roll legend who was simply too busy to attend his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1996, David Bowie was on tour in the UK at the time of that year's induction ceremony. As far as we can tell, that's the reason he didn't show up. He never offered any formal explanation. Former Talking Heads frontman David Byrne had the honor of inducting the absentee icon, a role that he accepted again in 2019 to induct Radiohead and their MIA vocalist Thom Yorke. My number 4 choice of the top 10 rockers that played hooky with the Rock Hall is Pink Floyd co-founder Roger Waters. As most music fans know, the split between Waters and his former bandmates was one of the ugliest in rock history. When the remaining members of the group decided to continue on without him, Waters sued them to prevent them from using the Pink Floyd name. Although they eventually came to an agreement to allow the Floyd to continue on without him, Waters was still feeling too bitter toward his former bandmates to join them on stage for the induction ceremony. Bad Blood was also behind the absence of the artist at number 3 on my list. Obviously, when the Beatles were inducted into the Rock Hall in 1988, a full reunion of the Fab Four would not have been possible. Still, there was enough conflict between George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and John Lennon's widow Yoko Ono that Paul McCartney decided not to participate in the ceremony. He did, however, personally accept the honor of induction as a solo artist when McCartney was recognized by the Rock Hall for his post-Beatles music in 1999. Rock feuds often become the stuff of legend, and the act at number 2 on my list has certainly had more than their share of drama. When Van Halen was inducted into the Rock Hall in 2007, no one with the name Van Halen was even in attendance. The only people who showed up to accept the honor were Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar, neither of whom were actually members of the band at that time. Anthony had recently been replaced by Eddie's son Wolfgang, and David Lee Roth had returned to the band to replace Sammy Hagar. Roth ended up bailing on the induction over a disagreement with the organizers of the event. Alright, now before I reveal the number 1 act on the countdown, let's recap the list so far. At number 10 and 9 on the list of top 10 rockers to snub the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's Rod Stewart, both as a solo artist and as a member of Faces. At number 8, we have Joni Mitchell. Number 7 is Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead, followed by Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses at number 6. At number 5, it's the iconic David Bowie. Number 4 is Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Number 3 is Paul McCartney, who was a no-show for the Beatles induction. And at number 2, pretty much every member of Van Halen. Now, there is probably nothing more rock and roll than the epic rejection that lands in the number 1 spot on my list. When the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had the audacity to induct punk rock icons the Sex Pistols in 2006, the surviving members of that seminal band were not having it. The group sent a handwritten letter to the Rock Hall to let them know in no uncertain terms how they felt about being selected. In the band's absence, their rejection letter was read aloud to everyone in attendance. And in that spirit, in their punk rock honor, I'll share that letter with you right now. Next to the Sex Pistols, rock and roll and that Hall of Fame is a piss stain. Your museum, urine and wine. We're not coming. We're not your monkey. And so what? Fame at $25,000 if we paid for a table, or $15,000 to squeak up in the gallery goes to a non-profit organization selling us a load of old famous? Congratulations. If you voted for us, hope you noted your reasons. You're anonymous as judges, but you're still music industry people. We're not coming. You're not paying attention. Outside the shitstorm is a real Sex Pistol. So there you have it, my top 10 rockers to have skipped their own inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's just as many more where that came from, and chances are it's a list that'll grow even longer with each new class of inductees being announced. But what do you think? As a fan, do you feel disappointed not to see your favorite acts reunite for the Rock Hall, if only for just one night? Or do you feel like Axl Rose feels, that the whole thing is meaningless anyway? Or do you think skipping the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony is just about the most rock and roll thing a rock legend could do? Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Once again, my name's Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Plus, check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.